My name is Ava Brooks, and this is how I lost my husband, and almost everything else. The morning after Daniel's funeral, I walked back to the house we'd shared for the past 5 years. My eyes were puffy from crying, my jacket still smelled faintly of lilies from the service, and I held a small overnight bag and the last photo we'd taken together. I was tired, heartbroken, and ready to go home. Except I couldn't open the door. Also confused. The key wouldn't turn. Neither would the spare key. Confused, I stepped back and peered through the window. That's when I saw them. Nancy, Daniel's mom, and Blake, Daniel's brother. Inside. His brother. Inside. Drinking coffee. Laughing. Surrounded by cardboard boxes. It took a minute for my brain to register. They were coming in. I knocked. No answer. I pounded harder. Finally, Nancy opened the door, her arms crossed, her lips pursed in a smug smile. "Ava," she said coldly. "I didn't expect you back so soon. What's wrong? Why can't I come in?" I asked, stepping forward. The house. And he was gone, it was back. Nancy didn't move. Daniel paid for this house. And now that he's gone, it's back to him. "I'm his wife," I said, my voice shaking. "This is our house." She laughed. "No prenup, no kids, no job. You contributed nothing. Everything here was Daniel's, and now, ours." I looked at her, stunned. My grief turned into something colder. Sharper. I had just buried my husband. And now they wanted to bury me too. With trembling hands, I left the house, my heart pounding not with grief but with shock. I couldn't bear the circumstances. The house I had shared with Daniel, the husband I had just posted to earlier today, was now occupied by someone else. No need to dig. His family. I moved temporarily into Harper's apartment, my best friend since college. She held me tight as I told her what had happened, and I sat silently, staring bravely out the window, my mind racing with questions. Why did Nancy think she had the right to do this? Why was she so sloppy? The answer came at 2 a.m., when I couldn't sleep and decided to open Daniel's laptop. Everything was still there, the password was still cinnamon latte, his favorite recipe every morning. I started digging through his inbox, going through legal documents, bills, mortgages. And then I saw it, an email from Daniel's personal attorney's office, titled Postnuptial Agreement, Final Draft. I opened the attachment, and I was struck again and again. This wasn't a prenuptial agreement. This was a prenuptial agreement, signed by Daniel, fully documented, stating, "In the event of my death, all ownership of the house at 48 Sandpiper Lane shall pass to my wife, Ava Brooks." Behind it was a handwritten note, in his own handwriting. "If my mother does anything crazy, use this. I always choose you, Ava." I held the letter in my hands, my eyes gleeful, not just because of grief this time, but because someone, though no longer there, was still protecting me. The next day, I went to the town hall and had the house deed drawn up. As per the contract, the entire property had been transferred to my name a year earlier. Daniel had done this quietly, silently, without a word to me, and now, caution was what kept me grounded. This afternoon, I returned to the front door, this time, with a proper copy in hand. Nancy saw me from the window and opened the door with a faint smile. "We need to talk," I said. She was reborn. For the first time, I saw Nancy take a step back. Nancy held the prenup in a trembling hand. Her eyes scanned the lines, and I saw the confusion turn to excitement. "Daniel never said anything about this," she whispered. "I hope he knows you won't take it well," I replied, my voice even and low. "And judging by what you're doing, he's right." Nancy pursed her lips, widening the paper as if she could crush it to erase the truth. But the truth was not easily lost. The next day, I received a notice from her attorney, a formal, reasonable postnup, requesting a review of the legality of the prenup, on the grounds that Daniel may have been mentally coerced, unsound, and under undue influence. I read each line with a cold hand. They were trying to get the truth out. They were trying to smear me to get back the house Daniel had left me. I immediately called Maya Sloan, a lawyer Harper recommended, smart, sharp, and capable of making anyone wary. "We can co-sponsor, email evidence, and handwritten letters. If they want to fight, we're ready," Maya said, her eyes like knives. "But Ava, I need to know, are you ready for this to go public? Dig up everything." I was silent for a moment. Then welcomed. "Daniel protected me when he was alive. Now I'm protecting his will." The weeks that followed were a series of stressful days. I woke up every morning with a heavy anxiety in my stomach. But every time I looked at the paper Daniel had signed, and read the familiar handwriting, "I will always choose you, Ava," I became more stubborn. Nancy started calling mutual acquaintances, spreading the false story of me using Daniel. A few anonymous messages began to come in, giving birth to tomorrow, suspicion. But I didn't respond. I let Maya handle all the secondary legalities, and I would keep quiet, keeping my heart as solid as a rock. One night, I stood in the living room, looking at the framed wedding photo. The yellow light illuminated Daniel's face, gentle, trusting. That photo had been painful, but now it was a reminder, I was not alone. And if they thought I would back down so easily, they had never seen me fight. The final day of the building arrived. It was raining lightly. Not loud, not noisy, just quiet and heavy, like the tension inside me. I stood in front of the grain project, wearing the black dress Daniel had liked, holding a thick file of consolidated files that included the postnuptial agreement, the confirmation email, and his handwritten letter. Maya, her eyes full of concentration, touched my shoulder lightly. "Just be yourself. I'll take care of the rest." Across the courtroom, Nancy sat solemnly, her arms crossed over her chin. She wasn't crying, but her cold eyes were fixed on me like I might be a thief. Next to her was the lawyer, a middle-aged man with a poker face, Mr. Langford. The trial began. Mr. Langford argued that Daniel had shown signs of mental fatigue in the last months of his life, possibly under the influence of signing the property transfer contract. They produced joint doctor's notes for stress and anxiety. No concrete evidence. Just words. Then Maya stepped forward, her momentum calm but sharp. She handed the letter to the judge. I saw Nancy talking. "Mrs. Blake," Maya turned to confront, "do you have any evidence that your son was coerced?" Nancy was silent. "Any evidence that Ava Brooks used mental pressure, threats, or deception to gain possession of the property?" I laughed again. Finally, the assessment by noise. There is no legal basis for this property dispute. All papers are in order. The lawsuit is dismissed. The title to 48 Sandpiper Lane belongs to Ava Brooks. I didn't know what words I had written. Everything around me had to be silent. Maya turned and smiled, softly, not triumphantly, just acknowledging, justice had been done. Nancy stood up. She walked quickly out of the room, not looking at me. But I didn't follow. I didn't need any more answers. I had kept my house, my honor, and most of all, kept what Daniel had left me. But I knew the fight wasn't over. A legal victory wouldn't erase all the wounds, but it would open a door. When I got home that day, the sky was still overcast, but the feeling was no longer heavy. I stood in front of the house, the place that had been the front line between me and Daniel's family, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel scared. I couldn't find the anger. I just felt peaceful. The place. No booty started cleaning every corner of the house. Every item, every photo, every piece of memory, removed, wiped clean, and put back in its rightful place. No longer a place of pain, the house was now a place for me to revive. Then one spring morning, I dug up the backyard, where Daniel had said he would plant strawberries and marigolds. I had always said, when I have time, and now I realized, interest is something you have to create for something worth having. I planted the seeds in silence, my hands dirty but light. The first rows of vegetables and flowers sprouted like Daniel's whisper, I'm still here. Still alive. And alive. One afternoon, I received an envelope with a simple message, this house will always be mine. I challenged, tore it open and used it as mulch for the flower beds. They may think they'll win when I'm miserable. But I live to flower.